Well, thank you for joining. I hope you find this useful. I just thought I'd kind of work through a series of topics that I think that are generally useful with education. The creativity is a massive part of that for me, but I can't ignore that at the mercy of kind of making business better for everyone. And I think certainly we can be our most creative when we're working with the right people and we have that kind of financial freedom to kind of relax. So I wanted to kind of share how I've managed to land high value clients, or kind of like more high profile clients, I suppose. And kind of the formula that I believe that goes into that. So if you're looking to move in that direction, these are the kind of areas that you can work on, so you can practically start moving towards that as well. So where this all came about basically was this thing of what I'd call is the career plateau, which is like things are going really well, but they begin to level off, and you'll kind of go, well, how do I kickstart it again so I can get that upward tick? And kind of, you win a big client that's maybe one of the biggest you've won so far, and it's going really well. And then the goal is to kind of ideally keep winning more like that, and even better, slightly get stable, and then go again and see, can I keep pushing upwards? And one of the problems is when you're doing that is kind of, there is a real gap between the clients we're currently working with, particularly if they haven't quite got the budget or the profile that we'd expect, and the clients we want to be working with. And this gap is all to do with, well, how can I show that I have the capabilities to work with larger clients, to potentially high value clients, if my current clients aren't that? And this is the problem that I was facing. And it's the thing of like, how can we show what we're capable of in order to prove that we're worth hiring? How can we get recommended for those jobs? And how can we get on the radar of the people we want to be working with? And it's really tough because it's all a lot of unknowns, and it's a lot of kind of, well, do I have to change everything I'm doing or look completely different and change my strategy completely in order to do this? And it just it's rather daunting to do that. But I tend to feel that if we're not showing the level of ambition of wanting to work with kind of better clients, what tends to happen is that lack of ambition is obvious to others, and they will stop recommending us because we've seemed to have plateaued. Whether we even have noticed it yet already, we won't get even potentially those jobs won't come our way because they're not going to recommend it to us. And I think that this is the slight thing of, that's the concern, is this is all going to happen without you realizing it's happening, and before it is happening, it's kind of too late. And it's easy to get trapped in that. So I wanted to kind of say, well, this is how we have to avoid this. We want to be able to keep moving upward. And I wanted to give kind of ways to avoid that. And I wanted to kind of get us thinking about the type of clients we're going to go after, because high value is the phrase I've used, because they don't have to be, big global brands. It can be clients that you really love to work with, but we have to be clear on, who they are and why we want to work with them. And ideally, as we go through our careers, we want to be getting to a stage where we are commanding more money for not for less time, but for the same amount of time, because now we're able to, basically include experience and success in what we're delivering, and it's the classic thing of, I think it was a famous designer was asked to draw a logo or draw a picture, and they drew it very quickly. And the client was like, well, why am I paying you so much for something that took you only like a couple of minutes to do? And the answer is, well, that's exactly what you're paying for, because you're paying for the 30, 40 years of experience of learning to know how to draw it so quickly. That's what you're paying for. It's that shortcut. So what I wanted to think about here is the lifetime client relationship we have with particular clients. So we're all aware of kind of lifetime customer value. And when evaluating kind of like, well, what's the cost in marketing to acquire a customer? And is that worth it? And how much are they going to spend with us? And, you can calculate that over a long period of time. And there'll be other people who will know that better than me, because marketing isn't my specialty. But certainly if we apply that thinking to the type of clients we're working with, it's always good to kind of consider, well, at the moment, it might not be that fulfilling, but where could it go potentially? So to illustrate that, I'm going to kind of talk about this client who I've worked with for years. It started when I was working with them on this Football's Next Star TV show for Sky. And I was asked to do all the graphics and the design and the website and all the email marketing for him. And that was his first sort of big break as a project. And it went well. And he was impressed because I just said yes to everything. That we'd worked on several projects continuously over, that was probably 12 years ago, maybe. It's quite a while ago. So we worked on several projects with that. he was the same client who gave me the introduction to do the MIDG Colourful stuff in New York. And he was the same client that gave me my own billboards in New York, because I did all the billboard work for him. And we're still working together now on launching the Astra cryptocurrency, which is due to launch on March 17th. And actually yesterday we were having a talk about trying to get like one of those 3D or 4D billboards in Times Square as part of the launch. And that's quite a big, exciting project. And what I felt was, I never could have envisioned where this would go in the very beginning, but there were certain hallmarks to that client, which I can definitely recognize have always been there. And the two things were always kind of a sort of ambitious mindset, and a kind of desire to be a little bit crazy and big, be ambitious, and then also find a way of finding the budget to back it. And those two qualities are massively important, particularly when I'm selecting clients now, because the ideal situation will be, and a lot of people have kind of probably experienced this, where you partner with a brand, maybe even a local brand that's doing quite well. And as they expand and as they're successful, they bring you along with the ride. And because the trust has already been built, that means that when they expand out and get future work, you're in pole position to take all of that work. And I always think of Hubbox, which is a Cornish brand, which I love burgers, so obviously it's on my radar. But the point being is, they would have started in St Ives with one place. They have expanded to maybe a couple more. And as they grow and grow and grow, they could become the equivalent of any big franchise restaurant like Pizza Express or something. But the thing is, as their profile goes up and they get more press and more coverage, if you're the person who did that identity, that positivity will rub off on your profile as well. So I think it's really important to kind of almost talent spot qualities in clients that we're looking for, because if we can find someone who is ambitious and who is making things happen, then you know that they're probably worth partnering with or worth giving a go, because you never know where it might take you. For me, when it came to kind of the magic formula, and that's sort of with speech marks, but certainly I felt that these were the three kind of overall qualities that were always in play when it came to being able to land high value clients. And the three things were simply relationships, results, and reputation. And they all have to come into play at the same time. And these are all things that we can be working for. So clearly relationships is going to be a combination of who you know, and extended to that, who do they know? So if your network is well connected and people like you, they can introduce you, they can recommend you, they can make referrals to ideal clients that you might want to work with, but also they're going to know of opportunities that sort of on the industry grapevine, before any other people, and that's going to give you a good chance to kind of get put forward for that. The second part is going to be the results you generate. So without being able to generate results for your clients, you're not going to be recommended. And we can all talk about that, but the reality is that there are ways of doing that which are kind of where clients will give testimonials and case studies, and you'll win awards. And there's lots of other ways of demonstrating how good we can be without having to say it ourselves, which is, again, the quality of the person giving the endorsement and the testimonial will only enhance the third bit, which is your reputation. And your reputation is, as you say, your reputation precedes you. And this is what other people say about you on your behalf. It's who you're seen with, who you associate with. And it can be extremely powerful, because it is this thing of it comes before people know you. And I think that in itself is really, really important, to be able to craft your reputation and to make sure that that precedes you. And I kind of realized this when I would always look at websites for really trendy agencies, which were almost close to parody, because I didn't quite understand quite what they did, and they were really cool and trendy and stylish and animated, but it really went against the grain of, say, the story brand philosophy, where you're trying to really use long form copy to identify what your client needs and explain what you do, almost like a sales page. And there's always this thing of like, well, I want to do the cool wanky ad agency model because it's more fun and creative, but I know that it doesn't really convert with clients anyway. And the reason why it's failing is because you can get away with that website if you have a good reputation. So in advertising, Mother, same as Design Mother London, their reputation is so good on the work they do that they're known within that industry. So they're already getting recommended for jobs and people want to work with them because of the results they're generating. because their reputation is so strong. So the website doesn't have to convert because it's not going to be their main acquisition tool. It's going to be word of mouth. It's going to be, you know, clients seeking them out kind of thing. So I felt that these were the three components that if you were to work on, if you were going to work towards, like, I want to get better clients, these are the things you're going to have to focus on. Certainly nurturing, and we all do it anyway, but accentuating and like really making a deliberate point of working on these three areas. The way I wanted to do that was to break it down for you in a series of short, medium, and long-term goals, because I personally find it really frustrating when, if I look at a carousel post or any kind of post, and the objectives are a big, long checklist of stuff to do. And my brain says, great, I'll save that for later. We'll come back to it and we'll start to do what's on the checklist. But in reality, I never revisit it because that checklist overwhelms me and frightens me off, because I'm thinking, where do I begin? And it's so easy to write a checklist in the same way it's really easy to write out goals and what you want to achieve. But it's very, very difficult to actually follow through and do the hard work, because there's a lot of trial and error and failure that goes on in between the perceived success and the real success. So with this, I wanted to make it kind of much more tactical and much more obvious to do. So from a results point of view, and all of these goals are always framed in the results, reputation, relationship framework. So in the short term, results wise, you can use the client work that you're currently doing and go above and beyond to kind of show what you're capable of. So if you are doing, let's say you want to work, you're doing branding or photography, but you want to move into doing social media marketing for a certain type of brands. When you show your work, you might go, well, I got paid to do the branding and all the photography, but actually off my own back, I'm going to go and sort of think, well, okay, what would a social campaign look like? Propose that to the client and try and run that. Now, if I can utilize my skills to develop a sort of a social campaign that uses the photography or is using the brand strategy and is actually helping the brand, and I can convince the client to do that, they run it, it's successful. That gives me a better case study. And that case study will have all the hallmarks and the qualities that a client who wants someone to do social media strategy will be in all of that, in a way that it wouldn't have if I'd just done the branding or I'd just done the photography. So we can actually use our current clients as a kind of platform and almost like a guinea pig to run spec and real projects that will give us a chance to express ourselves and show what we're capable of. So that's always the first one, because the problem is our current clients will have different problems to the clients we want to be working with. So this is a way that we can use them as a platform to bridge that gap and either gain or show that we can be successful, gain the experience of doing it. The second thing, reputation point of view, is change your value perception. And this will come down to knowing who you want to talk, who you want to target, and particularly where do they pay attention and what type of brands are they buying. If you are an agency and you wanted to go after a client that likes the finer things in life, then it's probably worth looking at kind of the brands they buy. So if they buy, Rolex watches and they drive a Mercedes and they go holidaying in the south of France, have a look at all the kind of brands they're consuming and buying, both clothing, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. What is their dentist like? And you'll see a commonality in the aesthetic, which is probably going to be clean lines, muted tones, minimal layout, refined typography, beautiful photography, very aspirational. And then you need to mimic that and replicate that as much as you can in your own work, because not only will it enhance the value perception of who you are and what you do, but it will feel familiar and comfortable to them, and it will resonate and attract them. So that's the sort of thing we can do. And I believe that when it comes to that, there are simple variables that we can all adjust in our business that will enhance that. So they would be our typography. So this is both the chosen typeface and all the layouts. Your copy, so this is where you get a proper copywriter to do your copy for you. Your colors and your design, so like the structure of your design work, so graphic design, the colors you choose and their sort of personality and tone that comes from that. Photography is a huge one, getting a photographer to take proper pictures, really beautiful pictures of your work and you and what you do. And I think those are the main ones. So it's going to be your copy, your design, your typography, your photography, and your colors. Those are all variables that can be adjusted in order to get a specific look. And if you do all of that, then that's going to make a massive difference to actually how you change your look and feel and how you resonate with this particular audience. And finally, the relationships one is really easy, which is where you start to work out, again, when we said what brands do they buy, we're going to look at, okay, who else do they follow on social media? And then we need to start doing the same thing. We need to start following who they follow. We need to make sure that we are being seen at the same place as them. So you want to make sure you're networking in the right places. And a good example, certainly in Cornwall, for example, is you would have like a networking group, which is more local, like your partnerships, versus the Samphire Club, which is more regional and kind of going out of the region. And it's this shift of, if you were in your partnerships and you had a sort of template website and you were trying to get better clients, a move would be, well, I'm going to pay a designer to build me a better website, give that an overhaul, change and join a new networking group, and then really focus on kind of like getting to know the right people. And these are all kind of short-term things that can be achieved, which would easily kick in, and they'll lay the foundation for when we start to build on the medium-term goals. That, you know, now you've done the short-term stuff, you've got the easy wins, you can now move on to slightly longer-term projects, and you'll keep the enthusiasm and your momentum because you've already experienced the easy wins. From a results point of view, we need to work out what is it that they're looking for in our work. So we talked about showing it with our current work, but this is where we're going to kind of go, okay, there's going to be a level of skills we need to acquire which take time. And this is going to be knowledge, experience, skills, and success. This could mean, you know, depending on your situation, you could go and spend time working with a slightly bigger company to acquire that. Or you could partner with other people to gain that experience and pitch for bigger projects. But if you're going to land high value clients in a particular industry, they're going to want to have at least known that you know the same people and you understand the industry. So you're going to need to spend time acquiring that experience and that knowledge and then demonstrating that in your work. So the first round was kind of speculative projects where you're kind of trying to show what you could do. This next round is actually, can I get access or experience working on those kind of projects? And like I said, that might mean you work with someone else, or you collaborate with someone else, or you offer just to go, can I join the project for free just to get the experience? There's an element of humble pie, but what you're doing is all of that experience, you'll soak that in, and then you'll retain that information, which means you can then take it back to your jobs. And now, so if I was wanting to work with, say, you know, restaurant clients, and I was dealing with lots of local restaurants, there's no harm in me trying to go work out who could I know that who could introduce me to, like, maybe I could work on a project for like a national or a bigger restaurant, or could I work on with a client who's doing stuff for Gordon Ramsay or whatever it might be. And like anyone who's been freelancing and you've worked in agencies, that work while you were working on the Nike account or whatever it is, you can put that in your portfolio and you say, look, this is the experience I got while working at so-and-so. But that experience is so invaluable because a local restaurant compared to the Gordon Ramsay chain, it's very different, and there's going to be overlaps, which is going to be good for you to see, and there's also going to be lots of kind of new stuff as well. So all of that is really important to learn. So again, we're looking to actually gain the experience to justify our claims in the results bit. Reputation wise, this is where you need to speak to someone like Rachel and do properly targeted PR and marketing that is going to strategically position you to be seen by your ideal clients in the right places. So again, a bit like networking, we want to make sure that we are giving thought leadership pieces, or being interviewed on podcasts, or sponsoring the YouTube shows, or events or awards that is prestigious enough that the client looks up to them. So the caliber of who we're associated with or where we're featured rubs off and enhances our own reputation. It's kind of shortcut, really. But if we can do that in a way that gives us the opportunity to do thought leadership, then that's even better. An example would be if you were to go to an expo, you could sponsor the expo, which is going to get you exposure and obviously perks of that as well. But I would probably say you should sponsor it and possibly look to try and take a speaking slot and give a keynote speech, because that way you're going to be seen in a place where your ideal clients hang out, in a position of authority on a stage, giving thought leadership. So that's where they can change, go, oh, who is this person? Well, they sound really interesting. And all of the profile has been built and you've bought that opportunity. But again, this is a medium-term goal, a bit of an investment. So by getting to know the right people and getting better at what you do, and then doing the intel on where everyone's paying attention, you can strategically pick the right places. So, well, if I'm featured here, if I'm seen here, that's going to give the right impression, and that's crucial. And the third thing, again, with relationships, before we were looking just to get to be seen at the right places and sort of dip our toe in the water of that industry that we want to be working in. Now we want to be more specific and more targeted, and we want to know, okay, if I want to work for, say, do work with Gordon Ramsay and his fleet of restaurants, I need to look at the people who work for Gordon Ramsay that are in positions of power or decision makers, certainly, who were making those decisions. I need to get to know them, because if I'm getting to know the people within the hierarchy of these businesses and I can make a good impression, that's going to make me getting in the door far easier. So that's the next strategic thing, where we're actually being quite deliberate with who we're going after, because with the, what can they do for us long term? And the final bit would be the long-term goals. And these are long-term because if you've been doing the other stages, time has elapsed. And you would say, like, let's say the short-term goals take 3 to 6 months. The medium-term goals take 6 to 9 months. And then you're looking at long-term goals might take a year to 18 months, let's say, on average. The long-term goals here they're based on what you've already built. So for the results section, this is where you're going to get to a stage where your reputation and awareness of who you are has been built enough that if you were to approach the client and offer to do spec work for an opportunity to work with them, then they would take you seriously. You want to be in this position where they know who you are, and they're probably going to be contracted to another agency, so they can't just ditch them and leave to work with you. But you want to be on their radar so that if anything goes wrong, or if they bring out a new brand or there's a new project in, then they're going to want to get you in to really test the waters. And a great way of doing that is to pitch for free and say, look, we'll do a free project for you just to get the opportunity to work together. And you become very hard to turn down if you're not charging. But again, you can be free, but if they don't know who you are and they don't trust you and they haven't seen the kind of success or anything from you, they're not going to waste their time on it. So this is where all of that hard work has paid off. And now this is where you're going to actually, as part of your pitching strategy, this is what you can do. And I know this has been done because my friend's a GM at a chain of restaurants. And I think when they first started, when they just opened their second restaurant, they were approached by what is a quite established London design firm now, but they'd just started as well. And they offered to do their entire rebrand or update their entire brand for free. It was simply just to be given the opportunity to work on a bigger thing that would increase their credibility and exposure. No one, will discuss that it was done for free, but it was, and it's paid off because they've gone on to win lots more work. And my friend's business is doing really well now. And he's kind of like, yeah, the brand has been excellent for us. It worked for everyone. So that's part of their business acquisition strategy. They go, well, we can pitch for free here, and the resources that will take up, we will offset against the alternative, say running marketing. We'll go, well, we'll pitch for free, take the hit, knowing that we can then use that to go out and win other clients. Reputation. This is where you're looking to enter and win awards. And again, you're not going to be able to do that unless you've got work that you can actually enter in the awards. So that's why it's a longer term goal. But now you're in a position to actually go, well, I've had my eye on the awards we want to be entering. Now I've got the work to do it. A year's gone by since I started. Now, if we're being nominated or we're runners up, or even if we win awards, that's going to elevate our reputation massively. And I know from in advertising, that was a big strategy. It was like, we want to almost create work. And at the time, the agency would almost like cover the hit of the cost of the work and just get the client to like pay for the media and to sign it off. But they knew that the idea was kind of off brief, that they had a chance of winning awards. So that the agency boosted their reputation for it. That would attract clients. And that was definitely part of their kind of client acquisition strategy. So that's the second one. And finally, relationships. At this stage, you should have made enough of an impression with your industry that you can maintain that with just like keep in touch. But now you're going to be more direct and asking for referrals and introductions and opportunities because now you're in a position to kind of seize them and make the most of them, because you would have gathered the experience, you'd have understood what's going, you've started to raise your profile. All of these things are bubbling together, which means that when you are referred or you get that introduction, it's going to work for you. And also you're going to be in a position to deliver on it. It's not going to be, you got the introduction, but you didn't have the experience. and you messed up the job and damaged your reputation, and then you had to start over. Now you have the capability to deliver on that. So now actually this is the time to cash in all of those, all that network work you've been putting in. Really, now's the time to cash that in and ask for those introductions and referrals. And that was it. So to sum up, really, as I said, it's always worth having a plan. It's going to take about 18 months. So it's a long time. But I think if we get comfortable with knowing that, then it takes the pressure off in the short term, and we can just focus on sort of getting stuff done. You always, and again, although I said I hate the bullet pointed list, I feel that this is a kind of more simple questions to ask yourself before you start. So you want to work out who is your ideal client and why that matters to you. Then flip it back. What are they looking for when they come across someone like you? We all kind of get that the wrong way around. We build our portfolio for ourselves, so really we need to flip it back and go, well, what does the client want to see? If they were looking to hire someone like me, what are the qualities I have to possess? What level of success do I have to have achieved? What do they want from me? I've got to show that. We've got to work out where they hang out so we can meet them, and who they look up to so we can collaborate and be featured with those people, those podcasts, those thought leaders. And then we need to understand what we do need to do to bridge the gap from where we are now to being in a position where we're socializing and associated, and we know the people they look up to. We're communicating everything they're looking for from us, and we're very clear on who we're going after. Once you know what the gap looks like and what you have to do, you put the plan together as I just outlined, and you break it into these short, medium, and long-term goals to make it much more manageable, sticking within the kind of reputation, relationships, and results 3 overlapping Venn diagram. And in conclusion, this is all I would say. Sometimes it's what you know, but it's nearly always who you know. And I'm very big on, when I talk to the kids, and I sort of say, when you finished education, for me, the big things that are going to give you opportunity in life is kind of like how hard you work, how likable you are, and who you know. And this always the way. If you know the right people, but you can deliver and you're likable, that's going to get you in the door. So it's so important to remember this. Who you know is so important. And then also, you've got to go above and beyond to stand out. That plateau is what happens naturally. We all plateau. That's why it's so hard to stick to kind of like exercise, anything it is, any habit, trying to quit smoking, quit drinking. It's so hard because we just get used to it, and then we fall back into old habits. So you've got to go above and beyond to break that plateau, to keep going up. It takes effort. It's like swimming upstream. So we need to go above and beyond. We need to be constantly putting ourselves out there, so we're making all the right, signals and looking and playing the part, certainly. And like I said, my big takeaway would be choose clients that are ambitious and are going to take you on the journey with them. If you met Mark Zuckerberg 20 years ago, I'm sure there would have been a quality about him that would have gone, that guy's impressive. There's something about him that he's going to go places. I don't like Mark Zuckerberg particularly, but off the top of my head, it's this guy. I'm sure. I think there's a photo of Gary Vaynerchuk in a dorm room at a conference with Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, some other people, and they were all gathered together. But there's an element of, I'm sure within the room, they all had this kind of drive in them that was noticeable. I will say, and it's not just because she's here, but when I first met Rachel, I knew that Rachel was talented before I even spoke to her, because we were at a networking event in Falmouth, and she arrived early and she was on it. She was, on her phone, busy, getting stuff done, very, together, confident. She gave a great impression. And sometimes you spot talent and you're like, that person's going to do well. The next step is to go, I need to know that person so that they can help, motivate me and inspire me to do well as well. So certainly when you're choosing clients and people to work with, ambition's got to be the big one, because I tend to find that ambitious people will always, even if they haven't got the money, they will get the money eventually. And then obviously budget, because if you can't afford to pay for big ideas, they're not going to go anywhere. So for me, those are the two biggest kind of qualities that I look for when it comes to clients. And that was it. So I will press pause there, answer a few questions, and then I'll briefly run through creative direction.